Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing part 2 of my short series on Empress Myeongseong. 명성황후에 관한 그 영상 시리즈의 2편을 오늘 한번 찍어보겠습니다. 근데 지금이 거의 12시가 다 돼서 I'm a little bit out of it, but anyways, starting right where we left off, today's video part 2 is going to be about how Queen Min, Empress Min was like as queen, her life in court, and her reaction to rising Japanese influence in Joseon in Korea. There's a jingling noise because my cat is running around, but just don't mind that. So when Empress Min was 20, she had already begun to play like a huge role in politics. And like I said in my previous video, that was very unlikely. It was kind of a weird thing for a woman to be doing at the time. And of course, by doing that, she was going against the wishes of Hungseon Daewongun. He was the regent of Joseon during the time of Emperor Gojong, and he also was Empress Min's father-in-law. So she clashed a lot with her father-in-law, and he didn't like what she was doing, and he was a key figure. So basically, she, as a young 20-year-old queen consort, decided to go against a super key political figure in the royal court. Yeah, so Queen Myeongseong, Empress Myeongseong she had some guts. And that's a whole long story, but she basically tried to remove Daewongun from power. Whew, very strong-willed, very brave young queen. And we see that later on too. She's not afraid of going against people who are higher up in ranks than her. And she has a very strong idea of what she perceives as right and just. And as she gets older too, she rules alongside her husband. She rules alongside Gojong. And some people even recognize her to have been more politically active than the king himself, which again is completely crazy in that time period. So even just from that, we know her tendencies, we know what her personality is like, which leads us to question, what is this woman going to be like when Joseon is under the threat of Japan? So if we look like way back in history, Japan has gone to war with Korea, with China multiple times, and it wasn't the first time that they were trying to invade and occupy Korea. So when Korea refused to receive the Japanese envoys, like announcing the Meiji Restoration, some Japanese people, aristocrats and officials, they wanted to annex Korea. They wanted to invade Korea. And it wasn't really a surprise because they had tried multiple times. But Korea didn't want to. The royal court didn't want to. They wanted to be like completely isolated. They didn't want Western ideas. They didn't want Japan. They didn't want any of that. But of course, Japan wasn't going to back down, right? So what happened after was the Ganghwa Treaty was signed in 1876, and that basically opened Korea to Japan and to the world. And this allowed Japan to, open Japanese trade and trade with Korea and use Korean land and buy Korean land in certain areas. And starting from that, they were able to increase their power in Korea, increase their hold over Korea. And of course, Queen Min didn't like it. So of course, this strong-willed, independent-minded Minbi is against it. She does not want Japanese influence, as is with a lot of the royals. She wants them out. But of course, in this time, Korea is not very powerful. They're not very rich compared to Japan. They are much less industrialized. And there isn't really a lot that they can do. But of course, she's the queen consort. And later on, she'll become empress. So she is basically one of the very few women who have at least a little bit, even as a puppet, of power in Korea at this time. And since she was so heavily against it, ultimately her tendencies and her views led her to take actions and to, voice her opinions that she is against it. And later on, these actions are ultimately what brings around her assassination, because the Imperial House of Japan, they did not want it because, of course, it's really hard to annex a country when the queen is speaking out against it. And that is ultimately what led to her death, which is what I'll be covering in part 3 of this series. So admittedly, that video was super chaotic. It doesn't have that flow that I try to maintain in my other videos. But either way, I hope that you were able to take something away from today's video and learn a little bit more about Empress Myeongseong and what kind of person she was and the lengths that she went to try and delay the Japanese occupation, to speak out against it, and to give hope and to spread what was going on to her people. Which is a really brave thing to do, especially at the time, especially for a woman, to be able to speak out so bravely for what she believes in. And yeah, and that's probably why she is one of the most beloved and most studied and most well-known, like a Korean queen or empress that even people living in South Korea right now know about and study and recognize as being a very strong, independent, notable female figure in Korean history. So yeah, wherever you are, I hope you have a good morning or a good night, and definitely return to see part 3 of my video. Thank you for watching.